Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is a Monday view and we are going to take a look at this week's pencils, which are the Cadrim, or also known as Q Lee colored pencils. They are a 72 set. You can also get them in a larger set under the Q Lee name, although I did look through Amazon and I couldn't find them. I was able to find the 72 set that is available still under a different name altogether. But we will take a look at that information as well as the Cadrims that I received. When I got the Cadrims, it came in a tin. It had a roll wrap that went with it. But you peel off the name Cadrim and underneath was Q Lee. So we're just going to start. Is that already up? Yeah, okay. I just needed to bring up my zoom and that sort of thing so that I could zoom in. So the Cadrim pencils are a fairly nice pencil. They have artist color pencil. They are a hexagonal pencil. They are a, I do believe, 3.8 millimeter core. And of course it has a color number and a color dip on the end. They are a well-balanced set of pencils. They have a really good amount of yellows, peach tones into your oranges, oranges into your reds, reds into your pinks. And then of course your purples. These two here I'd probably move, but they are still part of the red-violet family. Into our blues and our blue purples here, into our teals and our aquatic colors here, into our greens. A really good selection of green, not only light greens but dark greens as well as gray greens. And then we have our browns and our grays into our blacks. So it has a really good amount of color availability all the way through the set. So we're going to zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to flip this over and we're going to do our test. And I'm going to zoom you in so you can actually see what I'm doing. And we'll go this way. There we go. All right, so we're going to take our yellow. So we're going to use this one here, which is number 101. And we're going to use this one here, which is 110. And then for our blue, we're going to use this one here, which is 120. All right, and we're going to do a water test as well as a smudge test. So we're going to start with our red. And they lay down quite nicely. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on them. They are an oil-based pencil, so they are a layering pencil. You will find that it is better to layer these pencils than to just smush them on the page. They do work better in coloring books, I have found, than on cardstock. I'm not quite sure why, but I do find that they work a lot better on coloring books than they do on the cardstock. They were $13 when I purchased them. However, I had some problems with them when I first purchased them. The tin looked like somebody had stomped on it. Um, so it had some damage on the tin as well as the so it had a couple of broken tips, but I have not had any major breakage in the pencils, just a few broken tips. So I contacted Amazon, and of course Amazon told me to keep the pencils and refunded my money. I was worried that they would have broken cores, but for some reason none of the cores are broken. I was really kind of amazed. It does state in their description that they do have break-resistant cores. And yeah, with the amount of times that I've dropped these pencils and the amount of damage that was done to them before I got them, I think that I could honestly say that they are honest about that because I did not get any core breakage with any of the pencils that I've had any issues with. They are discontinued under the Cadrim name. You can still view them, like I was still able to go into my purchase order of the pencils and view them, but they are no longer available under that name. They are currently available under WT New Life, and they're the exact same pencils, including the same numbers and everything else. So I will try to remember to post that link below the video. All right, so there we have our water. Now we're going to do our smudge as well. Now the red that I chose is a little bit more of an orange red. So I'm hoping that it will still do the rainbow. It may just be a little bit oranger when we go in from the red to the yellow. So it might be more of a yellow-orange. And I should have looked at the swatch chart, and that's why we do a swatch chart, because sometimes the dip or that sort of thing, the color of the barrel, does not give us an accurate color. Alright, so there's our red. Do the same thing with our yellow. And I was surfing around looking through Facebook, and a friend of mine just posted very sad news that Paul Rubin, also known as Pee Wee Herman, passed away on Sunday at the age of 70 due to cancer. So I do hope he rests in peace. He was one of the my oldest favorite little splurges when he was little. And that laugh, I can never get that laugh out of my head. The Pee Wee Herman laugh. I could never get it out of my head. My sister used to do it so well. But yeah, no, Pee Wee Herman was a very, very funny actor and a fantastic children's actor. He definitely kept them engaged and taught them all sorts of things. So I do hope that he is resting in peace now, pain-free, cancer-free, and looking down at us all laughing away. But yeah, that was really sad news. I can't believe that he was 70 years old. All right, so there we have our water and our smudge. So I'm going to use my water brush here, which is wet, and we're going to drag it. We're getting a little bit of movement, but not a whole lot. Actually, it's doing really well with the water. I'm not seeing a whole lot of movement. So I would say that they are fairly water resistant. Now let's try smudging. The red did move just a touch. And the red, of course, is moving with the smudge. And the blue does a little bit as well. So I would definitely say that they are fairly water resistant. Like I said, it also depends upon how long it sits on there, because I think now that it's sat on there for a little bit, I can probably paint a little bit more with it. Not a whole lot though. But they don't move as much with water as some others that I know of. So that's really good. So I would say they passed the water test. The smudge test, they smudge a little bit more. I have a little bit more acids in my hand this week, so that is probably what that is. The reason why I do both the smudge as well as the um, water test is because I like to use things such as stickles and other things like that in my coloring. So I prefer to, I'm just going to take a look at, see where our pinks are. So I need 144, 128, and 134. But I do use a lot of um, sorry, a lot of stickles and that sort of thing to um, add additional things which are water based, and that's why I do the water test. All right, so we're going to start with our dark and work down to our light. The smudge test is because I have found in previous sets, in previous instances, because I do put the heel of my hand on the page as I'm coloring, I have found that with the movement of my hand across colored areas, that I am smudging color from one area to the next. Um, so I do the smudge test to make sure that if it is a very smudgy pencil, I can be aware of that and put my glove on. All right, so that was number 148. Now we're going into number 128. Again, going over top of the tail area, giving us a blend area. Building that color up. And putting a tail there. Let's try like so. And then we have 107. And of course, the softer colors are going to have less wax in them. So they do tend to blend a little bit easier than the harder colors such as reds, browns, greens, things with less white in them, less pigmented wax in them. All right, so I'm just building up that color, blending it together. And that has given us quite a good gradient blend. And you can see the difference between the colors, but you can't see the hard lines where it separates, which is awesome. All right, so now our rainbow blend. We're going to start with our red. And like I said before, this is more of an orange red, so we are going to get a brighter orange when we add it to the yellow. But that's okay. It's still going to work for us. One of the things that I have found with oil-based pencils sometimes is the sharper the pencil, the better. You get a better coverage and you get into those crevices a little bit better with a sharp pencil. However, if you're doing just areas such as this, having a dull pencil is not a bad thing. So I'm going to put that tail out for the yellow to blend into, like so. Then of course we're going to start back here with our yellow because we're going to put some blue into it. So we're going to do our yellow tail first. And then we're going to bring our yellow in to our red. Now we can deepen that orange by going back over it with our red. And then back over it again with our yellow. Just very gently blending it in. Now for our blue, I'm going to start back here because we don't want to bring that yellow into the blue until we want green. And then we're going to go into the yellow. And it definitely gives us a green. Just going to go back over and clean it up with the yellow, blending it out. So it definitely does blue to green, red to orange. So it does a rainbow quite nicely, which is great. Now for the test of blending. So we have a blender, which is the Caran d'Ache blender. That I like to use. I also have a Derwent blender that I like to use as well. The Derwent blender I prefer to use on some oil-based pencils, depending upon how much oil they have in them compared to wax. So I will do half and half. So we're going to start with our deep pink, almost a red pink. And again, with blenders, you definitely have to make sure you have enough pigment on the page for the blender to move. Now this one I'm not going to worry too much about putting down that tail for it to blend into. However, when you are coloring, I always suggest that you put a tail to blend into. Don't rely on your blenders to connect your blends. The reason for this test is to tell me whether or not A, if the pencils leave a lot of white spot, and B, if the blenders will move them together. And these pencils aren't leaving a lot of white spot, which is fantastic. It's either the tooth of the paper is not very noticeable with these pencils, or the pencils are just filling that in without any issues. But I'm not getting a lot of white spot. But I am putting down a really heavy layer just so that we can see the blender work. So the top part here I'm going to do with the Caran d'Ache. We're going to start at our lightest and work our way in. Now the Caran d'Ache is doing absolutely nothing. It's literally just doing nothing. It didn't even move it. It picked some of it up. But so down here we're going to do our Derwent blender, and it's softening the edge, but it's not, and it's filling in any white spot that we have. But again, it's not doing the best job like up here. Where up here, the colors blended together nicely with blending them as pencils. But when we bring them straight up to each other and try to push them together with the blender sticks, it's not really working. So I would definitely say that it's better to blend with the pencils themselves than to rely on that blender. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side here, but we're going to use the white pencil that comes in the set as our blender. And we're going to see if we can bring those colors together with the same type of wax. Sometimes some pencils move better with the same wax and mixtures that those pencils have, and that's why using the white sometimes is a viable way of blending. Now, another thing is with using your white, depending upon how opaque your white is, you will find that the color will be muted, and that's one of the reasons why I use pinks, because it already has some of that white in it. But you will find if you're going to use it on darker colors that you will end up with gray if you're using black, light blue if you're using dark blue, depending upon whether or not your white is opaque or translucent. And of course, when you do your swatch, you'll be able to tell whether or not your white is opaque or translucent. All right, so we've got the color down. We're going to use the white to blend them. Now, I did do a better job of bringing the colors together, but definitely not a perfect job. It did remove the white spot, but it did dampen the colors a little bit. Now, it did not dampen the colors as much as some other whites would have, like if I was to use a Prisma white on this, it would have very, very much dampened that color. So this white is quite a bit more translucent than, say, the Prisma white. So, for example, if I go over the blue, you don't see it very much because the color is quite translucent. It's not a very opaque white. All right, so there we have it. There are our tests. It did do well with the water test. It did move a little bit after I let the water sit on it, but just to begin with, it didn't move that water. The smudge test could be just something going on with my skin right now, but it did move the red and the blue a little bit. Blending the colors together as a 3-color blend and leaving those tails and blending those colors together as you go worked a lot better than the blender pencils or the white, and it did blend a rainbow blend. So mixing those colors together did give us other colors. Now currently you can get this set of pencils under the name of WT New Life. It does come with the roll and everything else that you got before. They are $17.99, but there is a 16% off coupon. I, of course, did purchase them for $13.01. And I think that's because I had a coupon of why it was the 1 cent. All right, so the Cadrim or Q-Lee, depending upon where you want to look at them, are a really nice set of pencils. They're not overly fancy. They're not overly hyped up, I guess. They're not light fast. They have no light fast ratings. They have none of those things. These were created specifically to color in coloring books. So remember that when you're purchasing different things, remember what you're going to be using it for. I bought these because they were on sale when I bought them, and I have an addiction problem. All right. So with that being said, we're going to use the Q-Lee colored pencils in our book here, which of course is Art Matters by Neil Gaiman. The illustrations are done by Chris Riddell. And this page says, I watched my peers and my friends, and the ones who were older than me, and watched how miserable some of them were. I listened to them telling me that they couldn't envisage a world where they did what they had. Okay, so they couldn't envision a world where they did what they had always wanted to do anymore. because now they had to earn a certain amount every month just to keep where they were. They couldn't go and do the things that mattered and that they had really wanted to do. And that seemed as big a tragedy as any problem of failure. And after that, the biggest problem of success is that the world conspires to stop you doing the thing that you do because you are successful. There was a day when I looked up and realized that I had become someone who professionally replied to email and who wrote as a hobby. I started answering fewer emails and was relieved to find I was writing much more. So I feel that what he's saying there is don't get trapped in the mechanics, the um, I have to do this part and this part and this part, even though I'm not very fond of it, I have to do it. Don't get caught in email jail, doing things that you don't want to do. So we have our wonderful little writer here, um, stuck in email jail. So we're going to color him first. We're going to start with number 154. And we're going to get that shadow in there. We need to go with a little bit deeper. Let's grab 169 here. Just going to grab 169 and just go a little bit deeper on his skin tone in the shadowed areas where the bars are. And his fingers here. All right. Now I'm coming back with 154. And we're just going to come off of that shadow. Now the Art Matters book is not a coloring book. It is a reading book. So the paper in this book is not meant to be colored. It is meant to be read. So if you find that you're not able to build up a lot of color on this paper with the pencils that you're using, just remember that it is not meant to be a coloring book. It is meant to be a reading book. The artwork in here is meant to be pre-shadowed, and your imagination is to fill it in with the colors that you expect to be there. But don't expect your best pencils to work 100% the way that they would on cardstock or those other wonderful papers that we use. All right, now we're going to add our light orange yellow, which is number 104 for his hair, because remember he is a redhead. So we're going to use the light orange yellow for the highlight areas. And we got to fill in all of the shadow areas. So we're going to start with number 108. And I'm going to sharpen because I'm not getting it sharp enough. Not getting sharp enough to get into those flick areas. Like so. He has crazy hair, so. And the thing with doing any job, no matter how much we love it, there are certain requirements or expectations that people put on us um, to do in accordance to that job. If we were just to do the job that we expect it to be, um, we would find that we would not have as many bits of bogging down things, extra things, especially fan-based jobs. We wouldn't have as much diversion from what we enjoy, is what I think he is stating in this. Don't get wrapped up in talking to everybody. Don't get wrapped up in answering the collaboration emails, answering all of the things that keep you from doing what you enjoy doing. All right, and we're going to use some blue for his eyes. And then some light blue here. Like so. And then for his shirt, we're going to use some greens. Just to give it some color. So as you can see with the Cadrims, I am able to get quite a bit of blending and color coming out of these, even though it is a book where there's not a lot of tooth. Alright, now lighter color. I want more of a yellow. Like so. Then we're going to go into our dark colors here. So we're going to start with this one here, which is 153. And we're going to come down and we're going to do our dark parts of our bars. And I'm just going to feather it out into the areas that are going to be lighter. Same here. And then just going to feather it out. And we're getting very close to being finished with the Art Matters. So we will have to choose another thing if we want to do more of the Monday only coloring stuff. I think we might take a break until next year, depending upon how long this takes us to finish up. All right, now we're going to go in with a gray tone. This one is number 116. And for all of you out there that are coloring along with me, thank you so much for joining me in coloring both the Art Matters as well as the 100 Days of Hugs. I know a lot of you colored along with me and Tammy and Shell and everyone else that did the 100 Hugs marathon in September 2021. I appreciate you all hanging out with us and doing that. Now we're going to do the concrete work behind him because he's in a cell. It is probably concrete back there. So in the dark areas, the areas that have the little lines of shadow, we're going to add this dark gray, which is number 116. And then we've got a windowsill here. I don't see any bars on that windowsill. There probably is, but all right. And then we're going to take our lighter gray and we're actually going to come back on screen. And we're just going to blend right into the darker gray all the way down, filling that in. Now I do have a page, but a piece of cardstock behind the page because this is a reading book, not a coloring book. The ink for the picture is not as solidified as you would see in a more robust coloring book. So the ink as well as the color that you put on the page does transfer. So you just have to be careful to put something behind it so that you don't get that transfer onto the next page. Now we're just going to take a bit more of that gray. And of course, anywhere that you want it darker, you can definitely go back over it and just darken it up a little bit, because the lighter color will dampen it just a touch. All right, and there we have our fella in email jail. So it says, I watched my peers and my friends and the ones who were older than me and watched how miserable some of them were. I listened to them telling me that they couldn't envisage a world where they did what they had always wanted to do anymore. because now they had to earn a certain amount every month just to keep where they were. They couldn't go and do the things that mattered and that they had really wanted to do. And that seemed as big a tragedy as any problem of failure. And after that, the biggest problem of success is that the world conspires to stop you doing the thing that you do because you are successful. There was a day that I looked up and I realized I had become someone who professionally replied to email and who wrote as a hobby. I started answering fewer emails and was relieved to find I was writing much more. Do not take your passion and make it into a hobby and make the responses to that passion the job. Okay, so we have this one here, here, and here. So we've got 3 more Mondays before the next chapter. All right, guys, so that is, of course, Art Matters by Neil Gaiman. I will zoom you out so that you can see the full page. Zoom, zoom, zoom. And, of course, the desk full of mess. All right, so here we have our Art Matters pages. This one here was done by the Hundertwasser. This one here is the Cadrim. All right, guys, with that, I would like to say thank you all very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed and learned a little bit more about the Cadrim Q or Q-Lee 72 set of colored pencils that we are working with this week. And I really hope that you enjoyed the coloring and reading from Art Matters. Until next time, which of course will be later on tonight when we continue in our Night Garden by R.J. Hampson. Uh, Hopefully we'll get that finished up tonight. With that, thank you all very much for watching. Of course, always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. And always remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. Until next time, bye-bye for now.